Meeting. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? Executive session, however, no votes were taken in executive session. Item number 1, approval of minutes, the open session, the regular meeting on July 23, 2025.
Second.
Motion made. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no correspondence. No one has signed up for public comment. Chair will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Second.
Any questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Pilata, members of the committee. First item on the agenda is a presentation and then a potential vote by the committee to approve our participation in a ride transportation review and savings opportunity. Very honored this evening to have with us Dr. Mario Carreno from the Rhode Island Department of Education School Building Authority. Dr. Carreno has done a lot of work to support and assist districts with statewide transportation. As you know, a significant cost driver for special education students and regular education students as well. And Dr. Carreno has also attempted to help with the passage of legislation to relieve the burden that comes with transportation. So Dr. Carreno is involved with this transportation review. There is a cost associated with participating in the review. A number of districts have signed on to participate in this review, and I felt it was worth it for Dr. Carreno to come before us this evening. Should the committee decide to approve the expenditure for the district to participate, and then Dr. Carreno will be here this evening explaining the potential cost benefits to the district and to our community. So, Dr. Carreno, yes, right up to the podium, please.
Thank you, Superintendent Goho, members of the committee. Thanks for having me. One of the priorities for the RIDE and for the General Assembly in the last year has been to look at finding ways to make transportation more efficient in Rhode Island. Some of you may have seen this slide either in past presentations, but just for context, we have a declining population in Rhode Island. We have 23,500 less students in Rhode Island over the last 20 years. That's the equivalent of North Providence, Pawtucket, Lincoln, Cumberland, and Smithfield vanishing from the map. Right? That's what we're looking at. With that context, with enrollments declining, do you think that transportation costs are going down or going up? If someone wanted to take a guess. You think up? Well, it's not up, it's way up. As much as 61% the last 10 years, our costs are up with all these fewer kids. If we look at just the last 3 years after COVID, when all the rates were jacked up, costs have increased 20% for transportation. Just for comparison, inflation over that time period is 9.8%. Salaries, 7%. Food service, 8%, utilities, everything we looked at, nothing compared to transportation. And part of it is because there are flaws in our system. There's a whole myriad of ideas which we're going to cover as part of this report that we're doing. But just let me really contextualize what this means for everyone. So in Rhode Island, everyone does transportation on their own, right? Every little town does busing. The state does busing. There's buses. Charter schools does busing. Everyone does their own buses. And I can't think of anything worse than spending money on empty buses. But if you look at the comparison, Rhode Island has 25,000 less students than Montgomery County, Maryland, just for comparison. They have 160,000 students, almost the same amount of schools and teachers, but they do it for $40 million less than Rhode Island. It's eye-opening what's happening. So one of our priorities is even to get a piece of that. Even if we do all these studies and make statutory changes, even if we capture half the savings, it will be easily worth our time. So there's three things we're doing with the state. The first one, the state has procured and is paying for. Simply put, for this one, is the goal for phase one is to just fill empty seats on the statewide buses. Without boring you with all the details of statewide transportation, the state carries your private school kids who are in region. We carry your special ed kids that are out of district, homeless, and foster care. In all, we carry about 3,500 students statewide, but our buses on the state are about 50% full. They're empty. And what we're seeing is we're driving through towns and districts are sending their own buses, which are also empty, to the same place. So step number one of this report is we're going to gather the information from all the districts who are interested, and thank you for sending your data in. But the premise here is if we're driving through and we can pick up North Providence students, you're able to shed a bus. We did a couple pilot districts this past summer. Coventry, we saved $100,000 by eliminating a bus. Cumberland saved a bus, and we already did 9 buses in Providence, $1 million with zero impact in service. And that was the low-hanging fruit. So again, we're going to have everyone's information. We're going to do our own hypothetical routing, and if everyone likes what they see, the idea is that we will start to fill those seats. So it's just something that we're doing already. You don't have to go any further. You can just take that. But with the potential of these savings, we wanted to offer those who wanted a more in-depth analysis. As a reminder that if you have a bus vendor who does the routing and the servicing, you want to periodically check that, right? The bus companies are for-profit entities at the end of the day. They may prioritize safety and whatnot, but we school districts, right? We're public entities. They are for-profit. And we just want to make sure that we have the right amount of routes. Every route is worth $100,000 per year to the bus companies. What we did is we procured on behalf of the whole state for those who wanted. We have a fixed price from an independent entity who will come to the district. They will actually ride on your buses. They will view them. One of the things we're hearing from other communities is that the bus vendors are telling them that you have to have a seat for every child, whether they ride it or not. That's not true. So one of the things that they do is we'll make sure you have the right amount of vehicles, the right type of vehicle, whether they will also make some suggestions on whether you have the right start times and for your schools. So the cost for North Providence, I think, is $9,000. It's very small in the scheme of things. So even if you get some level of savings, it will pay off. But the benefit of this phase two is that long-term, we are hoping to take advantage of economies of scale and route differently. Like there's a version here, and this is a slide I gave to Cumberland a few weeks ago, but there are schools in North Providence that are closer to Pawtucket schools than your own North Providence schools. There are schools in Lincoln that are closer to Cumberland and Smithfield than they are to Lincoln. So if rather than using the arbitrary town lines, we were routing with proximity and location, we would have, again, fewer buses, we'd have better start times, we could even do more tiers. But longer term, we may want to start bidding not just every man for himself, but a variety of districts together to get better pricing. The offer, or not the offer, but the quote that we have for North Providence includes the in-depth analysis that if you like the findings, you can immediately tell your bus company to make the change, but also begins to find these preliminary recommendations. They're going to look at the districts in the region, make some suggestions. For example, if Lincoln started one of their schools 7 minutes earlier and one of yours started 7 minutes later, we could shave buses. So that's the premise here. As Superintendent Go has mentioned, Cumberland, Lincoln, Burrillville, Woonsocket have already hopped on. If you come, that'd be great. We're waiting on Smithfield and East Providence. I'm going to East Providence meeting next week, but the vendor likes to do like regions at a time. The more districts who partake in the region, the more opportunities for this intra-district saving. But again, for this phase three, this is a few years out. The other two are more immediate, and we're already seeing the benefits in the other districts who have partaken. So with that, any questions on either this or the statewide system or anything that you would like?
Two questions. One, what about a community like Cranston that owns their own buses? Would this be beneficial to them? I mean,
So Cranston's separate. So there, for everyone's knowledge who doesn't know, so districts, for the most part, all contract out. Historically, everyone owned the buses and the drivers worked for the district and the monitors. I think there's only 2 or 3 left. I think it's Cranston, Westerly, North Kingstown. There's this weird hybrid. And I think Westerly was doing an RFP.
I think Narragansett.
Narragansett. I think one of them's converting. So there's very few left in the state who operate like that. With Cranston, we've shared some of this, but there are other issues that make it hard for them to want to go in that direction. Whether they choose to do this or not, that's on them.
my second question is, I know in terms of private school transportation, we go to Bayview, but we don't go to Mount St. Charles. So try getting over that bridge, but Mount St. Charles is 20 minutes up the street. So is that also part of this piece?
So we, as part of a transportation commission that the General Assembly created, looked at private school transportation, which is separate than this. That's governed by state law. We did find that Rhode Island had, by far, the most extreme distances and state subsidies for private school transportation of any state in the country, by far. We had sessions, but what happens is whenever you want to take something away from someone, those are the ones who show up at the General Assembly and write the letters. But the regions that we have now, just for background, were drawn up 50 years ago based on the 10 career and tech centers that we had at the time. We now have 250 programs in every high school. Like, they don't make sense. So we hear all the time, why can someone go from Lincoln to Bristol, but they can't do Lincoln to Cumberland? Like, again, there's these bizarre rules, and changing those rules requires statutory changes, and those become very unpopular when the people who have something to lose are the ones who show up.
So that's pretty much off the table.
Unless we have a groundswell coming in the other direction,
Yeah.
it's difficult. There was a hearing this past May or June, and I think of the 10 people who testified, only 1 was in favor, 9 were against. All the letters were from parents who just copy and paste the same message. But if that's what the legislators hear, then they don't think it's a problem, even though there's about $10 million a year spent on private school transportation alone in Rhode Island.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was clear. You said that if North Providence chooses to move forward with the independent review, the data from that review can be used within existing contracts, separate from moving forward with any subsequent piece of the project.
That's correct. The idea here is they would come in October, like after the first few weeks of school, they would do their analysis. You might get the findings in November, December, with the thought that over that winter break, you would tell your bus, if they found anything. I'm not assuming that I don't know who you use for transportation. I'm not assuming that there's anything nefarious going on, but if they find something, that would probably be the window to do it. But you can get those savings this fiscal year. The company that we use for this has indicated that in all prior studies, they have always found something, and every bus is worth $100,000, and this costs $9,000. That the math is worth the risk, even in the worst case scenario where maybe you have the most optimal routes, it opens doors for future savings, which I think they're out there. We just need to work together to get them.
I have about 3 questions, Mario. Do you have to get this through the General Assembly?
No, so this study, one of the findings from the commission was to do this report. It's only going to have things that districts are choosing to do together. So with Coventry as an example, we met with them back at the end of June. They had a bus, just their own bus, going to Bishop Henrican in Warwick to drop those kids off. We had 3 buses driving through Coventry there. So they opted in. There was no action done. They shaved their bus, and we picked them up, and they're saving $100,000 a year. So these are things that they're choosing to do. Ending service for private schools, that requires General Assembly approval, but being more efficient and consolidating service is something that we're doing. So the main premise of this report is to find things that don't require Assembly approval, things that we can just do, grab a lot of low-hanging fruit, and hope that we start to shave that $40 million off with this, and then maybe if the Assembly sees some of the positive traction, that they may actually make some changes. They did make some legislative changes this past year, which will help, but we need more than that.
Do you have a timeline attached to this report to be completed by next school year?
So the phase 1 report that we already have the data, the goal is at the end of this year, we would have that. And that would look at, again, we look at your portfolio of buses. We see that we're going to Wayland and we're going here with our own buses or to this high school. We'll say, hey, we can pick up 80 of your kids. Tell your bus vendor to do a reroute with less kids and see what comes out. Some communities will benefit more from this just because if those who have a lot of private schools in town will benefit, or if you have a lot of outplacement special ed, you'll benefit. So the savings won't be spread equally, but there are savings to be had. So this will be out at the end of this year with the goal of starting it in September of next year. And then for the phase 2, the action item here, they would come out in October. They're waiting to do a batch together because they're from out of state. So they would come for like a month. They would do a week here, a week in Lincoln, Cumberland, and then they would go back with their data. But the reason we're trying with the North region is because the more data we have, the more we can really push for this phase 3 and look at inter-district. But we need data to actually be able to pursue that. So that's why we're focusing on this northern group. We have a bunch already. Hopefully North Providence will jump in, but the savings are there for the taking.
And just the last question. The districts that have current contracts, and if this got implemented, how would that, what would be the operational structure of all that with local contracts versus what you're proposing?
So for phase 2, typically, your contract will have like a quote per bus. Because enrollments fluctuate, you typically, there's language in that if enrollments go down, you can shave buses, or conversely, if they go up. In this case, you would treat this as an enrollment going down, you give them the information, and they would do a reroute. So the ones we've worked with, it wasn't an issue. Coventry was able to shave, Cumberland and Providence already yielded those savings. That's for that phase 2. The longer phase 3 does require some coordination. That is not part of the existing contracts. That would be a couple of years out. Let's say North Providence, Smithfield, and Lincoln say, hey, we want to work together. They'd have to figure out when all the existing ones end. You'd go out to bid, and then you would bid it as one package. That's a few years out, this ideal scenario. But the other two it can be done with your existing contract.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? So the cost is approximately $9,200, and a guess at potential savings, if it works to the school district's favor, would be approximately.
Well, if you save one bus, it's $100,000 per year. So, like, okay. This is the savings could be tenfold, could be 20-fold, depending on what they find.
Very good. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Dr. Carino.
Best of
Good to
luck
see you again.
Mario, with that. Thank you.
Good to see you. Okay, next item on the agenda, as we typically do at this meeting, as we close out the 24-25 school year and start a new school year, I think it would be appropriate to have our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Seitzinger, working with our phenomenal consultant from True North, Christina Corser, to update the community on our strategic plan. We've analyzed the data. Our schools have analyzed the data. We want to be able to point out to the community and to the committee where we see areas of growth, where we saw some positivity in the year that was just completed, and also identifying areas where we know more growth is needed, and they will shape our goals for the upcoming school year. So, Christina and Mrs. Seitzinger.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Superintendent Goho and members of the school committee. Good evening. First of all, I want to say that I love our new mic system. Excellent, much clearer. So we're going to present in a very efficient manner our updates to our strategic plan, and so far, because we just started this, but the first slide, make sure I do this right, just indicates the 3 priorities, which is based on our district data, also through RIDE guidelines, and they are improving performance on core instruction. And all of these areas, I just want to say, are determined by our district data. Also, they are related to our school improvement plans and, again, aligned to RIDE guidance. The first one being one of the most important, of course, is improving performance on core instruction. So using our high-quality curriculum materials for pre-K to 12 classrooms, they are all research-based and aligned to our standards. So our goal is to improve proficiency and achievement across the grade levels. The second one is improving school climate and learning environment. We have lots of great examples of that as well across the district, as you already know, in terms of what's happening with our new school buildings being built. All of the upgrades that we've done, you can see just in this library alone, in the auditorium here, and so forth. So that seems like a really wonderful celebration right there, too. And then the last one is increasing family and community engagement. Having our family and community members feeling valued and welcomed and informed and engaged about all of our schools, about the district through communications from our district. And I would say that this is probably one of our most challenging, but we've really worked diligently to improve that family and community engagement.
So those priorities, and hi everyone, good evening. It's good to be here again. Those priorities should look familiar. That's our common language. Hopefully you've seen many presentations, many presentations that dive deeply into, for example, the RICAS data that looks at our populations, our MLL populations, our students with disabilities. We can take hours diving into the specifics of any one of those priorities. For tonight, we'd like to hone in on a focus of some improved progress monitoring tools. That's been a great success, a great asset to the district this past year, and a conveniently common thread that we're able to kind of pull out for you and focus on. So with our improved progress monitoring tools, that's allowed us to develop data fluency, both as leadership teams and with our teachers. That in turn has allowed us to hone systems for regular review, analysis, and reflection, and therefore identify pockets of scalable success within individual buildings and schools. And all of this feeds into the larger goal of MTSS. We're trying to get better. No one is perfect with this system, but everyone is working harder, and that's across Rhode Island, across the nation. And that larger system of MTSS is not just academics. That is how our data is letting us know how our whole student, how data is driving our performance for our whole student. Are our students happy? Are they safe? Are they healthy? And are they learning?
So going back to the first priority, improving performance on core instruction, we're using our K-8 screener and diagnostic screener, which is iReady assessment. And it's really been a terrific year of our first year of implementation. So the goal being typical growth for a student in year one of an implementation of iReady is usually between 50 to 60% in terms of growth. So what we saw in our district for K-8 was 54% for reading on average, and also in math it was 52%. So we're in the range that we should be, which is where we want to be. And then for stretch growth, that's a little bit different. That's exceeding the student's typical growth. So we looked at that, and iReady states that it should be between 20 to 30% for first year of implementation. And for reading, it was 29% for us, and in math, it was 23%. So, my question was, are we heading in the right direction? So we have all of this data broken down. And if anyone's interested, we can certainly share that with you. But the other pivotal piece about iReady, and I think I've mentioned this before, is that it's highly correlated to RICAST results, which we just explained to our admin team the other day that coming down from Rhode Island Department of Ed, we're going to be looking at attendance, and they want us to look at RICAST achievement too in terms of possibility of being retained. So all of this data is extremely important, not only for our accountability, but just in terms of, as we said earlier, data analysis, using our data to really personalize and drive instruction for our students and to intervene along with progress monitoring. So we've really come a long way with our data analysis, and we're really proud of that fact. And iReady is used by many, many districts in Rhode Island. And I'll let Christina continue.
And aside from the data showing us that we're on the right track, one of the great parts of adopting iReady this year for schools, for classrooms K to 8, has been that teachers report that the dashboard is really user-friendly. Excuse me. So anecdotally, as a coach meeting with teachers in every school, teachers have been able to come to the table asking questions, using their data, designing interventions for their students. There are less barriers to doing the work.
We just have a question from one of the members. We'll take the questions as we go along rather than at the end.
Sure.
Thank you. Out of curiosity, it may be in a different slide, but do you have a breakdown by the grade for growth? Do you have it on this?
No, we have it in a later slide, but we can share it.
We have it in a separate presentation, but I can add it.
I would just love to see it by grade, and unless Mrs. Thighthinger would like to share, based on that analysis, are there certain grade levels that have heightened targeted need across the district, and how are we targeting that around our admin coaching support? So if you can braid it in, happy to wait.
That is, Gina, that's actually the question. So we have, I think the short response to that is we have too much data. Not too much. We have so much data, and we're able to look at iReady from the breakdown of, okay, here's how our gen ed students are doing, here's how our MLL students are doing, here's how our students with disabilities are doing. In addition to that, we're able to see that by grade level. We're able to see that by grade level and by school. We're able to look at all of these different trends, not just at the beginning of the year, but beginning, middle, and end of year. And as administrators and coaches, we're able then to prioritize our time and say, okay, based on what the data is telling us, we need a heavy presence at school X. And so we are going to go to school X, and we are going to support these classrooms that have the greatest need. We saw the least amount of growth in these classrooms, so we are going to be co-teachers in these classrooms. So we are able to prioritize our coaching time in those ways. I will say that, and you'll see that little blurb over on the right, we did a lot of learning this year. So the first trimester was really just getting to use the program. And get used to the platform and build systems to promote using it daily, regularity, the routine, building routine with both teachers and with students, and scheduling around that. So I'll say we didn't have fluency for these systems until the end of the year. So we're ready to hit the ground running with those systems of analysis at the larger umbrella level. And what I think that schools are really great at, and I'll let you compliment, was at the individual school level working on like the school level data teams as like the first grade team getting together, looking at their data and saying who needs what. And are we doing interventions correctly? And are we sharing students? And does it make sense to share students across classrooms?
So just so you know, my intended goal for my question, so you know what I'm trying to get to, is how are, and not no more surprise probably for Louise, how are we coordinating the systems? Because this is what we talked about when we did like our data systems, student information systems. Our teachers have a lot of information at them, and we have very targeted needs. How are we helping them pool that information for application so that we can ensure first that our tier 1 is tight, so that we know that it's a tier 1 issue before we jump to, an academic plan?
Well,
and how does that, I just want to make sure
No,
so I
right.
can.
So it actually tiers the data for us. When you get the results, so we look at it that way. And so it's, again, one data point. And the other piece is we're looking at things like how are they doing in terms of other qualitative data, and that it's not just looking at iReady, but they are using that, and it's personalized. So you know that there are lessons that the students do that are personalized to their level, and they have to send a certain amount on their pathway. So that is something that has really been different for our teachers because they haven't had that kind of data so personalized for their students. So they do understand from the data what is tier one, what's going to be, and they have to apply that. And they do have intervention blocks in their day as well for that purpose.
So I think I'm also bringing in, though, that attendance data, the behavioral data, the other systems outside of this. How are we bringing that all together?
Well, we're going to share that because of our wonderful data analyst, Rebecca Amaral. We are able to start to call that kind of data together. So we're going to share some attendance data and how that's been analyzed, and also projections are made so that we can, to your point, really synthesize the data. So it's a great point. And so it's really not in one portal per se right now, but what we're starting to do more than ever is, first of all, make our data more accurate and clean, which it truly is the best we've had in probably several years. So that's a great thing. We will look at, with our data director, how can we do that? How can we manage this? Is it something that we can do through Skyward, because we're going to keep that for now, that we can look at a student longitudinally from pre-K on and look at that data? I mean, that's what I would like to be able to do, and I'm sure it would be great for teachers, obviously principals, to have that ability. But we're starting to create systems like that with our team.
Well, because that's where, because you had, and maybe that this is not the right presentation, because when you started with MTSS, is this presentation more about your progress monitoring tools, or to provide us with an understanding of how the district is handling MTSS? Because that's where I want to make sure I understand the intent.
No, what we're sharing is that it's all related, just what you're saying. So the work that we've done with iReady and the data we've collected, which is supporting instruction and improvements in instruction, ultimately our goal is to use these types of tools so that we can improve, so we don't have students qualifying ultimately for special education, so that we are doing what we can at the tier 1 level and tier 2 possibly to reduce those gaps and make them achieve and get what they need personally, individually.
So as a teacher, just curious, is there an MTS handbook, guidebook that
There
tells
is.
teachers? Perfect. And is that in here? And I'll wait.
No, it's not with this presentation, but I do have it, and I can share that with you. We've had that. So can I just go backwards in time for a few minutes? So when I first came here, we created a district team that created an MTSS guidebook based on research, based on other districts and what they had, and really honed down on just the language. But, with Ms. Van Avery's team, and now Anthony Pasito is our MTSS coordinator for the district, we're starting to do more work with that, and surveys were done last year to find out where people are at, because it was inconsistent across schools. So we're building that effort in so that we do have more of a systematic approach. The guide was there, the forms are there. We think it's a good document, but we're looking to really, again, align those systems to the data, because it wasn't done before consistently. So I'm happy to share that with you later, and the guide and the forms. But yes, so to answer your question again briefly, it's been in place, but what we're trying to build in is a more coherent, cohesive system across the district that people really understand, the teachers. Yeah. Hope that made sense. Okay. All right. So the next one is improving school climate and learning environment. And I said this is really apparent because we see this, all of the structures and all of the improvements that are being made. The new elementary schools, Centerdale and Greystone, of course, and Wayland. Gym renovations at Birchwood and Ritchie. The cafeteria, as I mentioned earlier. The auditorium at the high school. And as I said, this library, and just a lot of the efforts that have been made across the district to really upgrade our physical facilities and just beautiful infrastructure so that students can feel comfortable, safe, and be in equitable environments where they can learn, in flexible environments, which is really important. So just some pictures there of also the branding, and I want to credit Mr. Goho, our superintendent, for that, because we've really worked hard on branding the district. You can see it across the district at all the schools. It's a sense of pride, I think, so much for this community, and it really, I think that it's really unified our community. It's starting to more and more. So, like I said, this library is a good example of that. But that's an easy one.
For our third priority, our third and final priority, we're going to be focusing on some reports from a district analyst, Rebecca Amaral. She, this past year, has shared monthly school and district level attendance reports that have allowed principals and teachers to do some pretty amazing proactive real-time analysis. And I apologize, the text is pretty small on this, but this is just a piece of some of the really detailed, again, monthly reports that she's able to provide to schools. And they include visualizations and recommendations by schools. And I will say, before these reports came out, a lot of the questions and concerns I got from principals were, well, I have to go into the portal and I have to do a little bit of math and I have to put in the right dates. The process was challenging, and I know you know how hard our principals work. They don't have time for that. So Rebecca has saved them a ton of time. I hope her ears are ringing, because she deserves these accolades and compliments. And just to give you a quick description of what you're seeing here, the gray bar represents chronic absenteeism in 23-24, and the yellow bar is this past year, 24-25. So we've seen a reduction in the amount of chronically absentee students in both students with disabilities, MLL, and our gen ed population. And the following two slides are two more samples of her really in-depth reports. And this is pulled from a summary report for this whole school year. Sorry, excuse me.
So, we have this under family engagement because our goal is obviously to have students present. So the more present they are, the more hopefully they'll achieve and learn. So through not just, obviously the instruction, but also through activities, through events, through things that we are engaging families and students, motivating them through assemblies and things like this. So all of the schools have done things like with attendance assemblies and really rewarding students and incentivizing students. And I'm going to go back to iReady for a second, even with that. So a lot has been done with that for students to understand that data too. So they know their goals, they know where they need to go, they know what again, where they should be going. So we believe that all of these things are trending in the right direction, helping us to trend in the right direction. But just to Christina's point about this data, what's really pivotal, and again, it's small, but you can see where she projected based on where they're at right now, where the schools will be going in terms of their rating for the accountability data. It's one area for the accountability star ratings that we get. But we have improved in the last couple of years in attendance, both for students and for our staff. So we're very proud of that. But as a principal, and Mrs. Picard, I know you mentioned this about the school improvement teams. This is another great piece of data that you can use with your school improvement teams. And we just shared this the other day with our principals again and talked about that, how they can use it with their teams to address chronic absenteeism and to look at projections and how they can improve.
Do you see a correlation between student attendance and test scores?
That's a big question. I would say, I'd have to look at the exact data, but I would say there's definitely a correlation between achievement and attendance. That's why Rhode Island Department of Ed and nationally that's such a big, push, because if they're not in school, they can't learn. You can't just, you can't make up everything. You still need the direct instruction, right? So there's definitely a correlation. I could tell you exactly. I'd have to look at our data to tell you that.
I can speak to one of the points that Rebecca found in one of her many reports was a higher correlation to students who have been retained and students who are chronically absent. So whether or not one is more causal to the other.
Or students, in poverty, and there are other criteria in other areas that definitely have that correlation in terms of attendance and achievement.
Are the updated school improvement plans online for view, or they are? So we can go into the new ones for this year that were approved in July?
You mean in the RIDE portal?
The annual school improvement plans, I know last year, because it was a new process, everyone came forward, but I know now it just goes to Joe, but by requirements for RIDE, we have to have them posted. I just was curious, can we now go on and see them, or is that something that will get started when the first day of school starts?
They are going to post them, but I think they're going to work with their team. It's just for this year, they have to update it. But at the end of the year, last year, they had their updated plans, yes, from last year.
So the one that's online is for this year?
I believe so. I'd have to check.
That's all. I just want to know.
But we talked to our principals the other day about updating. Mr. Gaho, didn't we discuss that at the meeting?
I think what's online is the school improvement plan from last year
Okay.
that they developed, and then they uploaded data.
Yeah.
So now, at the beginning of the year, they have to revise that school improvement plan for the upcoming year.
Right.
So what's online is last year's school
Last year's. That's what I thought.
Last year's data.
Yeah, I don't think they've updated. But in the public RIDE portal, you can see all the plans too.
But they have to update it this year for July.
They did update it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the new plan is going to be the one that we see, not the one from last year.
Every school's plan in the Rhode Island strategic planning portal, it should be updated for this year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been updated. But I thought you meant on their individual websites.
Well, that it's public that we can see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
I'm just curious, with all the data points that you're keeping, do you follow students who are homeschooled and their results?
Well, they don't typically come and take the test. First of all, the RICAS
Only
test.
if they come in.
They some of them may, but we don't have many that do that. That's a really interesting question because homeschooling is very complex. Legally, they do not have to. We have a packet that we give to a family when they're going to be applying for homeschooling. They don't have to fill anything out legally. They are told, and maybe Mr. Scungio can speak to this. We have a couple of students that aren't even registered. They don't have to legally even register in the district. But most of our students have been students that are in the district. Then they decide then they homeschool after. I would say that would be a very mixed review of data for students.
Are they required to take the test also?
No,
They're not.
no,
So they don't get factored into your data?
no,
No. Okay.
no.
All right.
That's
Thank
a good
you.
question, but it's a very interesting area. Any other questions? That's it. So, go ahead, Gina.
For the foster care students, when we did that review, was there any disproportionality or any concerns that the data analysis was able to disaggregate for our foster care families?
I don't think so. No, I didn't think so. No.
Will we get that report? Right, we're supposed to get it every year now, as per the law. I don't remember seeing it. I could have missed it.
We can make sure you get.
Thank you. You could it doesn't have to be on an agenda, it just has to be like an FYI.
Okay, so a couple of things in terms of our actions moving forward. We mentioned our MLL performance has improved, and I think I mentioned at our previous meeting the really good amount of exits that we've had from our MLL programming because of the access testing exits. So we're going to continue that focus on our MLL students and a heightened focus on co-teaching and inclusion practices to support our students with special needs. And also learning from all of these things that we just talked about and scaling school level successes. So we want to highlight some of the things that have been really positive this past year, including Centerdale. Their intervention structure that they provided really produced and supported a great deal of academic growth across the schools. And Ritchie, Birchwood, and Stephen Only showed the greatest improvement in attendance between we compared 23-24 to 24-25. So, again, they've worked really hard as school communities to improve attendance. and really celebrate the same. And they will continue to do that this year. And then, Christine, I'll let you finish.
In addition, we want to celebrate the fact that the elementary school did a fantastic job of taking iReady and making it their own. Every elementary school has different ways of incentivizing the systems and talking to kids about their growth and data chats, sending home family letters. I don't know who wore the costumes, but somebody did. And that in itself is something worth celebrating. And we want to make sure that we keep those positive things going and scale what's working and share what's working and help build those practices at the middle school in ways that make sense for their existing systems. 2 additional action steps that we plan on taking, and this sounds very similar to the first goal and a little bit of the second, but it's a little bit different. We want to continue to practice and develop those intervention structures. So keep the intervention block going, but we're not just designing experiences for our most vulnerable students. We still are, that's our number one priority, but we are also designing for students who need enrichment. That if we are only focusing on our students who need the most help and forgetting about our students who need enrichment opportunities, we are not going to see the growth that we need, and our students need that. Our students deserve that. And lastly, and Gina, I think this actually, you hit the nail on the head with your question. This is something we need to work on. It's one of our action steps. We need to apply our academic data practices to all areas of school-based teams for true MTSS. And Louise, as you explained, we know that's a need. We know we need to get better at user-friendly systems that teachers can just kind of reach and take action on. Thank you.
Anyone have any further questions? Thank you for a very nice report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is regarding the potential name of the new merged elementary school. Oh, thank you. No, we're not there yet. Thank you, Rod. Okay, so I would request a motion by the school committee to approve the North Providence High School Student Parent Handbook, which has been updated as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. So the last item is pertaining to the new school under construction on the Greystone site, which will be the home of the Greystone and Centerdale communities. As everyone is aware, North Providence Public Schools is currently in the midst of a significant elementary school construction project, which is scheduled for completion at the end of this upcoming school year. As you may recall, the original bond approved by the voters called for a replacement of 3 elementary schools, Wayland, Greystone, and Centerdale. The expectation at that time was that each of these 3 school communities would receive its own brand new elementary school. However, due to a variety of factors, the scope of the project had to be adjusted in order to remain within the project budget allocated by the town and approved by the voters. As a result, the plan was revised to build 2 new elementary schools. One would be constructed at the Wayland site, replacing Wayland. The other, instead of 2 separate buildings, one each for Greystone and Centerdale, would be a single new, larger school constructed at the Greystone site, combining the Centerdale and Greystone communities into one unified school. While there was understandable disappointment that the original plan, 3 individual schools approved by the voters, could not be fully realized, there is still great enthusiasm within the community about the future. With the completion of this project, all elementary schools in North Providence will be brand new, providing state-of-the-art learning environments for every elementary student. Once construction began last year, we received considerable feedback from both the Greystone and Centerdale communities regarding the potential idea of considering a new name for the merged school at the Greystone site. In response, the school committee placed this concept on its public meeting agenda in the spring and directed me to initiate a process to gather input from all stakeholders with no predetermined outcome one way or the other, and to report back in a timely manner. Over the past few months, the principals at both schools engaged their communities in thoughtful discussion around this topic. Notices were sent to all families via Skyward and Class Dojo, inviting families to attend stakeholder meetings or to simply submit direct feedback to the principals by email. Meetings were held with faculty and staff, school improvement teams, and PTOs at both schools. This process was comprehensive and inclusive, ensuring that all voices had the opportunity to be heard on this concept. After collecting and reviewing all feedback from school staff, families, and community members, and after careful consideration by my administrative team, I can report that there is a consensus from both schools, particularly, though not exclusively, from the Centerdale community, that a name change for the newly merged school would be appropriate. Interestingly, the naming suggestions that came from both communities were quite similar, underscoring an already in place shared vision and spirit of unity. Based on all of the information gathered and the support from both school communities, if the school committee believes that a new name is appropriate as we move forward into this next chapter, my recommendation would be to name the new school Woodhaven Elementary School, as it is a name and location that historically has been regularly interchanged with the name and location of the Greystone area and neighborhood. At the same time, we recognize and agree with the members of the Greystone community who have expressed the importance of preserving the legacy of the Greystone School, which will soon be demolished. I believe we can and should honor that history as well as the history of the Centerdale School and their 60-plus years of existence. One appropriate way to do so would be to install a commemorative plaque in a prominent location in the new school. This plaque would acknowledge and celebrate the history, contributions, and impact of the former Greystone Elementary School, as well as the former Centerdale Elementary School, and be an appropriate starting point for the two merged school communities to join in this new building. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Well, thank you for that comprehensive system that you put in place regarding both schools. And from what I understand in your statement, both schools came together, had ample representation from each of the schools, and they settled on Woodhaven Elementary School. The chair will entertain a motion for discussion.
Motion made to approve Woodhaven Elementary School as the new name.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the recommendation of the committee that was established by the superintendent. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations to the new Woodhaven Elementary School.
I like it.
All right. Item number 8, we have no school committee requests, reports. We have no old business. Item number 10, new business. Mr. Goho.
Thank you, Dr. Pilata. As I briefed you in executive session, we have reached a final tentative agreement with Local 920, the AFT Collective Bargaining Unit, our teachers, on a new agreement which their membership unanimously approved a couple of weeks ago, a new 3-year contract for the 2025-2028 school years, and I recommend approval of the new contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Cicerone, on a new 3-year contract.
Next item, I would
And thank you for your cooperation. For the record.
Next item, I would request approval of the settlement agreement regarding the special education matter discussed in executive session.
Move to approve.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Dr. Plott, I'll defer to you on the transmission of the school department
Item
budget.
number C is transmission of a school department budget memo with everything that's going on relative to the area of finances. I thought it would be appropriate to put together all the information and forward a copy of a letter to the town council clarifying the school department's use of the fund balance, the uncertainty of federal funding, statewide transportation costs, special education costs, many of which are associated with outside placements under which we don't have any jurisdiction or control. So I wanted to place that all in a memo to the town council with appropriate copies to the individuals that are listed there. And I just want everybody to have a clear understanding of the school department's fiscal concerns now here in August. So in February, March, or April, if we need to refer back to the memo in terms of what we are communicating to the town council, I just want to make sure that everybody is in agreement with what has been transmitted to them. So I would ask approval of the letter that you have before you.
Motion to approve.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Goho.
Thank you. Next item, I would request approval of the enclosed bid, which is a renewal of a contract for our learning management system, Learn 365, which provides the software platform for our training information and material that we provide to our staff.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Along with that, I would request approval of the enclosed agreement with Vector Solutions, which provides the content for the online training courses that will be supported by the learning management system.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
As is typical at this time of year across the state, most food service providers find a need to increase their school meal prices, which we have not done in North Providence in quite some time. As you see in the information that was provided to you, Chartwell's is proposing a very moderate increase of about 25 cents for all of our meals. So I am requesting that the school committee approve the Chartwell's school meal price increase for the 2025-2026 school year as submitted.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda, I would request approval of the enclosed renewal of the New England Base Camp contract, which has been vetted by legal. And along with that, I will ask also that you approve the True North engagement proposal, which is also a renewal, and the EAB services agreement, which is also a renewal, and the AIM Pathway Institute for Learning Services agreement, which is also a renewal.
So moved.
Any questions on those three items?
Four.
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 Sorry. I apologize. 4 items. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Moving down to item K, along with that, I would request approval of the ongoing, this should be the final year of the Local 920 MOA regarding the AIM after-school professional development, which is a renewal of the MOA regarding right-to-read training of our teachers.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item, I would request approval by the committee or permission to remove the district face covering policy.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item, I would group together and ask for your approval for the updated policies, which are the volunteer policy, the classroom observation policy, the naloxone policy, and the educator standards and code of professional responsibility policy, which all have been updated and provided to the committee.
Motion to approve.
Any questions on the policies? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Last item, I would request approval to remove the obsolete textbooks from North Providence High School as submitted.
Motion made.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Goho. Item number 11, approval of bills.
Motion made to approve as submitted.
Second.
Any questions on the bills?
Just a comment. Thank you for the,
Mr. DeSoto.
thank you for the, what's always very professional and easy to follow. Appreciate it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Use of property request.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
Any questions on use of property?
Just a quick question, and I'll ask James. So with our new fields, I'm sure we have things that are not allowed there, and they all know this. Great. Just wanted your approval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, request to address the committee. We have none. We have no pending business. Before we adjourn, I just want to thank Mr. Goho and his staff for all the hard work that you've put in getting the schools prepared for another school year. And we wish you nothing but success, a successful school year. Every school year we know is challenging, not only academically, but fiscally. And certainly this is not an exception this school year, particularly with the fiscal piece. We're still awaiting some finalizations with federal funding. I want to thank the town council for giving us an additional $200,000. But as we all know, that expenses go up. So I know you'll do your very best to stay within the boundaries of our budget. Just keep us informed as we go along, particularly if the funding streams are added to or deleted. Please keep us informed with that. And again, I wish you a very successful school year. And thank you for all your hard work, because I know simultaneously you have the schools being built at this point, which I know consumes a lot of time. But it'll be worth it in the end. I attended a subcommittee meeting this past Tuesday regarding the two new schools, and I was informed that Greystone? No. The new school. The two new school, Wayland and Greystone. They're on target for completion in 2026. So they're on target and they're on budget. So that's good news. Mr. Goho, you had something
Yeah,
to
one
say.
thing I just thank you for that, Dr. Plata. Every year we thank the custodial staff, maintenance staff, all of the various personnel that go into preparing for a new school year. But I do think at this point it is appropriate for a special note to Mr. Feroli, Ms. Rosanna Vellante, our maintenance staff, and our custodial staff, because this has been a very unusual summer. Tech team as well. Lots of construction going on everywhere, including in this building, some of which is still ongoing. And that made cleaning these buildings, especially this one, a huge challenge. So we really had to marshal all of our custodians up to this building over the last couple of weeks, when we had demolition on the first floor of the flooring, demolition of the cafeteria, demolition of the two gymnasiums, and we had to, once they finished the construction, clean all of those areas. And that required an awful amount of coordination and real hard work. People working longer hours, really scrambling over the last couple of weeks, and all of the custodians across the district, their buildings were done, and they were able to come up here and get this building ready. So, and three schools used for elections as well during July and August. So thank you, Mr. Feroli and Rosanna, and obviously we'll send that note out to all of our custodians and our maintenance staff as well, and the tech team, which has had a lot to do with this as well.
And thank you on behalf of the committee, too. I know people take a lot of things for granted. you can't take anything for granted because people put hard work into what they do, and they take pride in what they do. So on behalf of the school committee, we thank you also. There's a motion to adjourn.
Made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye, aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.